It's the
That's the one
difference
thing I do
between
love about screenwriting is that it's A through Z is what you're going to see on the paper, but it's up to me to make sure if I'm the director that I pull out the emotion so it display on film. So
it's like the
interrupt.
difference between giving the person the answer and then leading them to it. Right.
Right. And I've seen you do that in some of the rooms that I was in with you, where you're just a good coach, and I think that's what a director is. So you have been
Thank
able to
you.
story tell and listen to the objectives, even though I could tell in your eyes, you're like, yeah, all right, cool, we're gonna try that and move forward. I just think that's super dope because it's like you gotta have the, especially when you know you wrote the story. It's like it's hard to like let somebody give you a suggestion if they've never written before and they just thinking you're throwing
Yeah,
stuff at the wall to see what sticks. Is like that's not the best process because the movie's not a writing room. Yeah, if you might give me a few notes and if they make sense within what I wrote, cool. But for you just
right.
to add whatever you want to think it's gonna make it better is, I think you handle that process really well when you allow others into your circle to read. So
Well, also too, I think as writers, as filmmakers, as artists, and the whole
right,
nine, being able to listen is like for some like really really difficult. For me, because of the way that I was raised, I was always made to be quiet, so it was like really easy for me to like listen to what people have to say,
was
and
that
then
natural for you, or you had to learn how to listen?
not, man. I have four sisters. I'm the eldest and only boy. But prior to that, I was raised the only child with my mom. I have tons of aunts. So like I had like women everywhere. I couldn't say anything. Like, because I was gonna get in trouble. I was gonna make somebody upset the whole night. So I learned just to watch and listen to, and then you just
Right,
kind of cherry pick the things that work for you, and because in the end, even if you object to it in that moment, that outcome isn't gonna work out because they're gonna
right,
feel like you're not listening to them, and then so in the end, I just say yes, 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 yes. Well, this is what I'm taking. This is what I'm taking. This is what I'm taking. Thank you. You know.
right. No, absolutely. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I give you your props because I think you definitely know how to set a team up for success, and I think that's not the easiest thing to do, and I'm sure you have to do that a lot, even with your Concourse Film Festival. If you want to get into
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
some of that, it's like you have a lot of people that asks you questions so you can support them in their endeavors. So how's that been going for you as a filmmaker creating a film festival such as that?
Well, the Concourse Art Foundation. Well, you were actually right. I started with the Concourse Film Festival, and then we went and did the first and only right now the Concourse Comedy Festival. And then after doing those two events, I was like, man, we have to create an organization that all of these festivals will be under. So then I started the Concourse Art Foundation, and then I ran the film festival. Two brothers that are buddies of mine, Joe Hill, he runs the Concourse Comedy Festival, and then his older brother, Gary Prey, he runs now the Poetry Festival. And now Kimberly Winter runs the film festival now for us. But yeah, in a way, they say that you can't build you can't build a kingdom with a bunch of kings, and I wanted to work, see if that was actually like true or not true in practice. So
Mhm.
I essentially created the art foundation, and then I'll have different kings and queens running their own like art forms, so that
Right.
way no one's
Their
stepping on.
own their own wings of the building, like
Exactly,
pretty much
they're all under one like foundation.
umbrella. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, like the film festival has his own family, his own crowd, his own like following. The comedy festival, the same thing, and they don't necessarily all mix. But eventually, we're gonna get to the point where we'll be able to unite all of these like artists, so that way, in a way
It's a
that really
hub
hasn't
hub
done
of a
before.
network. Right.
Right, right.
Absolutely.
Especially in the Bronx. So,
Right.
yeah.
What roadblocks did you face when starting out initially in filmmaking? Was it the cost of equipment? Was it the cost of how can you execute the idea of not having a team, but you have a good story? Like that's some of the things I think I face to this day, and that's why I stay in writing novels because at least I know I can get my stories out there. So what are some of the roadblocks you face as a filmmaker?
It's funny that you say that because in the very beginning of my career, that was really the battle. So, you can be a filmmaker without the the crew and the cast and everything, and you just your story just has to be smaller, so that way it's just like you, like so that way it's just you dealing with everything. But when I went to the first struggles, first off, was that I didn't know any other filmmaker. There were no filmmakers in my family. I had no friends, like no neighbors, nobody. Nobody was a filmmaker. I was like an alien to everybody. Like, what the hell is wrong
Right.
with you?
Like finding a brain to bounce ideas off of, like you could do now, you
Right.
couldn't do back then.
Mm-hmm.
Got you.
So, I think I really didn't set myself to kind of go in that direction until after high school. Because even when I was in high school, I was like the only actor, the only kid that wanted to be an actor, the only kid that was trying to be a filmmaker. And I knew this back when I was like 10 years old. So I had to like wait through all of these years to finally like make my own move and yeah. So I went to like college. I went to film school in a small like art college in North Carolina, and it was really there that I got to meet like other filmmakers, and I was immersed in this like community. And then eventually I started realizing that film school was like a terrible, terrible, terrible waste of money.
Right.
All the stuff, especially now with technology, everything that you will learn in film school, you can learn on the internet somewhere.
Right. You could just type in YouTube probably at this point.
Exactly, and save yourself thousands of dollars. So instead, I used like I realized that the fault in my decision in going to film school, but it was super necessary. So I just used the time and the equipment that was available to me to just bang out a bunch of like short films, and that was really to work out the craft of visual storytelling. Because I tell people all the time that like it's like novels you have to write thoughts out, you have to write everything out the whole night. With films it's a visual medium, so I was always with the understanding that if you watch a movie and you're watching on mute and you can still understand what's happening, then it's a good film, it's a good visual story.
Right.
The problems that I have with like some like filmmaking today is that a lot of the cues and the facts and just parts of the story are told to you by just the dialogue. So you don't really understand the character, their like motives, why they're like moving forward. Only if they don't say it, I don't understand. You know?
Right. So you're trying to make sure that the medium visually at this point for your films are aesthetically, the energy is the same as if it's in dialogue, it could be the same visually.
So that way the dialogue and the music and the sound effects is just the sprinkle that you put on top of the cake. Even if you watch my films without any of that stuff, you would still understand what's going on.
Right. Absolutely. Let me see. What else? I like to also think that that film school might have been necessary though, kind of, if you think about it, because probably when you started doing it, the DIY do it yourself mentality wasn't always there yet. Even though you might have had the mentality you could do it yourself, you didn't have the resources. It made sense for you why you went to school, but now I can understand why you feel like, if only I took the time to maybe see if this was up on these resources, I probably could have saved something.
This was I graduated like almost a decade ago. So
so
I think it was a decade ago. Holy crap.
YouTube was very new. Like it wasn't, not everybody was like giving out their information like that, for sure.
So back then information wasn't as readily available. It was necessary at the time. Now I would say like filmmakers now, man, all you need is a camera that works, and there's like free editing software out there. There's so many resources.
That's what I use. I'm actually going to say it because it's like it's up to you to do the work. So Blender is a pretty good one. So that's what was the name of it? Blender is what I use for this. Yeah, it's free. I don't pay anything. You know, it works almost as Adobe Pro as far as the same kind of capabilities of how to work the software. So it's like you learn one, you can learn a few other programs. So
yeah, they all kind of do the same thing. It's just they may not do it differently. But yeah.